to another episode of Talking with WIT, Kevin and Son, featuring people you should know. Hi, I'm Kevin McLemore. I am your show host. I'm a four-time published author, matter of fact, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, public speaker, however you want to say it, but my friends call me the Mindset Messenger. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is to give power to your voice, inspire, share stories and experience and perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. In short, we showcase people you should know. Our mission is very simple. Well, not mission, our purpose is hope, helping other people every day. And I'm sure that when Dr. Breakthrough shows up on here, he's going to give another acronym from hope. But I want you to think about this. Whatever successful people and what their objectives are, they create a framework from their day-to-day lives that sometimes they enhance their lives and many times they pour into others. And believe me, this young man's cup is overflowing. Today's guest is one of 200 10th degree black belts worldwide. He was voted both in the Black Belt and Motivational Speakers Hall of Fame. He has shared the stage with the likes of Speaker Jim Rohn, the late Zig Ziglar, mutual friends Les Brown, Grant Cardone, T.D. Bishop Jakes, T.D. Bishop Jakes. Hopefully I got that right, and the list goes on and on. He is married to the love of his life, Nadia. He is the father of 8 children, as well as a best-selling author himself. Today you will learn our guest story. You will learn the art of doing business God's way, and you will learn how to work and live with your faith and changing the way that you live your life. And if you stay with us, our guests will show you how to get through and have your own breakthrough moments. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome my talented, my gifted, the order without borders, my brother, Stan Harris, AKA Dr. Breakthrough. How you doing, Stan?
Man, I'm doing excellent, bro. I'm not sure. I thought I was your son for a moment.
Not
But now
myself.
you now you said I'm your brother, so hey, I'll take it.
You're way too good looking. I was a little nervous having you on the show, man. I said, I got to stand next to you. Oh my
Hey,
gosh.
well, I say if you can spot it, it's because you got it. Ooh, come on, somebody.
There you
And
go.
I'm
There
just
you
like you,
go.
by the way. I'm not a hater. I'm a celebrator, and so I celebrate you and all that you're doing to make a difference in this world, and especially on this special Freedom Day, Dr. King's birthday. You're definitely a man that has a dream, and like I said, Dr. King didn't just had a dream. The dream had him. See, that's what people don't understand. But we'll get into that. Let me slow down. My wife usually says, "Baby, just breathe."
Yeah, let's exhale because you just did my intro. Well, let me ask you this. All right, let's go from
Yes, sir.
there. And again, the reason why we're working here today is because of the sacrifice many people like John Lewis, um, Dr. King, um, and many other disciples of change have sacrificed so we can have these moments. To have a platform where we have freedom of speech, to be able to voice our opinions without threat to our life or freedom. So I thank the families of the survivors of our leaders. And I hope young people still remember what sacrifices many people of color gave in order for us to have this moment today. So the question I'm going to ask you, and we're going to lead off, because I like to get to know you. And I'm just curious. You have 8 children. As of today, change is happening in many different ways. And sometimes it's affecting us in a way that we believe to be positive. And then change is affecting us in ways that will destroy human character, human emotion, and even cost some of us our freedom with that change. You and I both know that life is not easy nor fair. And we will have our share of ups and downs, and we will be disappointed by some of us closest to us. I mean, the Bible even said that, but people will let you down. Now, what I'm going to ask you, you're a father of 8, you're a husband of Nadia, but today I'm going to have you and Nadia sit on a beach with pen and paper in hand, and you are going to write a letter to each one of your children, not celebrating the breakthrough moments, but the lessons of life and following their faith and living amongst people that are not connected to their faith. To that said, what would you write to your 8 children and place in that bottle that will be shared not only with your children, but your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and their friends and family to come? What would that letter say?
Well, the letter would say, first of all, make sure no matter what you do in life, the first thing is to make sure you receive Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. Because the greatest book ever written says, what shall it profit a man though he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? So to receive the love of God, to receive the fact that God loved us so much, he sent his own son who died and was buried and rose again. Again, it's not a preaching thing, but you ask, this is exactly what I would tell him. And so the first thing is, because again, you have a body that houses a soul that houses the spirit. So let's start from the inside and get that, make sure the spirit man is right. As a matter of fact, I have a brother that said to me one time, he said, man, he said, as good as you are in the martial arts, he said, man, this is when I was younger. He said, man, why are you wasting your life being a preacher, man? He said, you'd probably be the best karate guy in the world. I'm like, well, the man is no fool that gives up that which he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose. I said, what I was living for was temporal. It could burn, it could be stolen, it could rust away. But what I'm living for now is eternal. And I would say in that letter, make sure that you, first of all, get your eternity settled by receiving the Lord, but then live with eternity in mind. My beautiful mother passed away when she was just 49. She had just 18,065 days. And so the scripture says, Psalm 90:12, so teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. I would say to my children, my grandchildren, the legacy that I'm leaving is, again, to live with eternity in mind. And so every day I wake up and I thank God for the day. We go to sleep, but God wakes us up. So as of today, it's my 23,414th day on God's wake up list. The average person breathes 20,000 breaths per day. I've had approximately, as of today, 468,300,000 free breaths. And I would write for them to be thankful for the little things, the seemingly little things. And then don't try to live your life pleasing others, but you have to fill the shoes that God has for you. And the plan and purpose he has for your life is going to look different than mine. So I'd love to inspire you with my character, my consistency, my determination. But as far as exactly what you do in life, that has to be your choice, your decision. And last of all, I would say, and above all else, one of the greatest things that I've learned is don't let the opinion of other people affect you. Allow God's opinion of you to become your reality and his promises to you. Let that be the thing that you focus on the most, because he calls us the apple of his eye. He calls us unstoppable. He calls us more than conquerors. If you apply those things, my son, my grandson, my daughters, my granddaughters, your life will be amazing. And I can testify to it.
All right. What's the best piece of advice your mother's ever given you?
The best piece of advice that my mother's ever given me
Hmm?
actually wasn't that my mom didn't say much. I didn't get much time with my mom, but she didn't say much with her lips, but she said a lot with her life. And the greatest lesson that she taught me without even using words is a lesson of forgiveness. My dad left when I was 3, never came home, never called, never sent mom a dime. My mom never uttered one negative word about the guy, and she could have. I saw my mom, people do things wrong, and she, like, the next day was like nothing ever happened. I couldn't wrap my arms around. I couldn't figure that out. And but once I received the forgiveness and love of God, then I started, okay, now I'm seeing where this is, where the strength for this comes from. But she taught me that. She showed me that with her life. And I would have to throw in another thing also. She showed me determination. She never said the words, be determined, but I watched her life. I watched us getting, had to move from this home because rent was due, had to move from the next apartment, rent was due, had to move, and we moved, but she just kept on, and she would just go get another job and just keep on keeping on. And so without a man to help her raising us, not here boys, there's 4 of us, well, 5 altogether now, but but just that determination. So I'll never forget this. I was in college, and man, I hurt myself at work, and so I had an operation, and got not kicked out of school, but I would just say when you miss so many absences, they would, you couldn't attend for the rest of the semester. And
Right.
I was in the hospital. And so I'll never forget. And then my car got repossessed. And so I wrote my mom a letter and said, listen, by watching your life, your son is not a quitter. If I have to, wherever I have to stay, I'll stay. But I am not. You're not going to see me again until I graduate. And I'm glad to see that she got to see me graduate, not just graduate, but become a college professor and postgraduate work and all that.
That's all right because you know I can tell people that you are um, an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about your book, um, Kingdompreneur. We're going to talk about your life as a seven-figure earner. We're going to talk about your life as in business and in your faith and why faith has been such a prominent factor in the way that you do business. But we all have struggled and have overcome some things. Is there anything in your past that you still carry forward with you that almost broke you, that you carry forward with you, but you don't carry it with you? That makes sense.
Well, yes, it does make sense. A good friend of mine, Pastor Vic Brooks, he used to be one of my students also in the martial arts, and he would always like to travel with me when I was a college professor, and I would travel and preach on the weekends and so forth, and then in the evenings. And he said to me, he said, man, before I knew you, I didn't think you had any problems. He said, man, you're always on top side. He said, now that I got to get to really know you, he's like, dude, all the problems you have, how do you even smile? And I said to him, I said, well, Pastor, I said, let me put it to you this way. I have problems, but my problems don't have me because I have faith and my faith has me. And my acronym, one of my acronyms for faith is fully anticipating it to happen. So I'm fully anticipating good things happen. So, but yes, there's been a lot of things in my life that totally crushed me that I was like, I could never make it through this, right? And yet here I stand. And I'm sure your listeners have had things like that as well. 6-year-old boy being beaten by a teenage gang, not just beaten, but tarred and feathered and literally stomped all over me and left me out in the middle of a field for dead. And thank God somebody finally found me, rushed me to the hospital, and I've been through physical abuse and verbal abuse and sexual abuse and obviously racial abuse, every kind of abuse you can imagine. Tried to commit suicide on 2 occasions before I was ever 12 years of age, because I was in that hopeless state, that hopeless situation. And for somebody that's listening or watching today, suicide has been said as a permanent solution for a temporary problem. I am so glad I failed those 2 times at suicide because I would have never been able to enjoy what I've enjoyed. I've lived a life beyond my dreams. And so I just want to be an inspiration to other people. And I've committed my life to, I aspire to inspire breakthroughs even after I've expired. But sometimes that breakthrough only comes after a major breakdown. And so I've had a lot of those breakdowns. I even remember a time in my life I used to travel 320 days a year. I got out of balance and I thought I was going to save the world overnight by myself. And I'm traveling, breaking boards and bricks and laying on nails, getting people's attention, then preaching to them. And then I'd go replace, but 320 days a year, and I would drag my family with me. And people kept saying, man, you got to rest, you got to rest. And I didn't listen. And, if you don't listen, sooner or later, the body will say, hey, you know what? You won't listen? Okay, we'll just shut you down. And of course, I lived off about 3.5 hours sleep a night back then because going through Bible college, I worked, it's amazing. I heard somebody say they worked a full-time job or they went to college. I'm thinking, how could you do that? Well, I worked two jobs and had a full-time load. And so the only thing I had to give up was sleep. And so I learned to live off about 3.5 hours sleep going through college. Then I just continued on. And of course, I kept hearing, oh, we can sleep when you get to heaven, right? Well, I almost went to heaven too early, right? And so I had to realize, no, no. Now I know that sleep is a very important component of our health. But I collapsed out of exhaustion. And if you could imagine, you're talking about scary. I was so here I am the week before, put my hands through 22 inches of cement block on fire, and the next week I can't even get out of bed by myself. I mean, the week before I'm laying on a razor sharp bed of nails and put 150 pounds of bricks on my stomach. The guy takes an 18 to 20 pound sledgehammer, breaks the bricks off my stomach while I'm laying on the nails, and I get up. And of course, I get about to preach. They're like, "Whatever you say, preacher," And now I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. And I was 36 at the time. It was almost like I had a stroke. and hallucination. I'd never done drugs a day in my life, but my brothers that did, and from what they told me, I mean, the trees were coming after me. It was crazy. I mean, and we had a good doctor in our church that said, "Listen, I know this guy just totally exhausted," and so they allowed him to work on me at home. But in a nutshell, I'd exhausted my adrenal glands, and all I had to do was to get some rest and get some nutrients in my system. But I'll never forget my brother-in-law, who was the pastor at the time. Uh, he said to me, I was an evangelist, he's the pastor. So he said to me, he said, "Man, you were like the strongest guy I ever knew in my life. And then you were like a walking, barely walking dead man. Like, man, that was scary." I was like, "You telling me?" Matter of fact, a guy called me during that time and he said, "Hey, listen," he said, "you're going to make it through this." And I said, "Man," and I could barely talk. I was like, you know how they say, there's light at the end of the tunnel? He said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't even see a light. I don't even see a tunnel." And the guy said, "Well, it seems like your faith is low. I tell you what, I want you just to believe in my faith in you, and it'll get you through." And it did. And I tell people now, I feel like I'm a debtor. And so that's why I want to go around this country, my friend. And now through Zoom, we can go around the country inspiring people and
You
telling
go
people,
around the
keep
world.
on keeping on.
You can go around the world. We reach a global platform here on Talking with Kevin and Son on this
Wow.
platform. Your voice has been heard around the world. I wanted you as a guest, and it's hard bringing you on as a guest because you're also a personal friend. You also show up every single Sunday on my platform, Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends, and you're so I won't say inspirational, I won't say motivational, but what I will say, you are honest. You're honest with your compassion. You're honest with your truth, and you allow yourself to be honest with your vulnerability. And when I say being honest with your vulnerability, two things when I started my podcast, they said two things you don't talk about is politics and religion. And believe it or not, the reason why I even have this podcast is because God pointed me in the direction I was supposed to go in. He told me I had a much higher purpose than what I was doing. I spent 40 years, I'm spending 40 plus more years as one of the top fitness influencers in this country. But I've also connected more people through the power of my words, my books, my speaking engagements, and through the friends that I know. Because my conversation and my love echoes through the heart of every single sound that Stan says, regardless if I get credit for the words or whatever the case may be, because we both serve the same CEO, and
Come on.
that's because we are committed to our faith and we show up to work wanting to make sure that he is successful. We produce a product knowing that he is the end result. He is our QA, our quality control person, but he is also the example of what the end result is supposed to look like, and that's us telling his word. So there are people that have not connected to their faith that show up every single day in the corporate world. You have a wonderful book. I've listened to it going to bed. I've listened to it on my drive in. I've listened to it as I worked out on the Stairmaster, Versa Climber, the rope machine. I've listened to it just because, not because you're here. I've listened to it because every single time from chapter one, the very last chapter, there's been something that spoke to me
Mm.
that I didn't hear before. So we got people that show up to work every single day and just show up for the work every single day. How do you connect? And I'm going to ask you about your book, but first, how do you connect those that are not connected to their faith? They have their faith connected to their heart and their life. How do you get that message across?
Well, I think you already mentioned and said it, just being authentic, just being who I am. And of course, obviously there's many facets of me. And so sometimes people just see one particular light and then they hear me in another, they're like, "Oh man," so, but I think it's just, I was talking to one of my sons who just happened to be here the other day and we had a good time talking and joking around, went out to eat and do some things. But he was telling about this, one young lady who was dating. I was like, "Son, throw that Harris charm. Use that Harris charm." And my wife was overhearing the conversation. So I was telling him about, so. I said, "That's how I got my. And so my wife came, she said, "Baby, it wasn't your charm that got me." I was like, "Excuse me?" She said, "It wasn't your charm." She said, "It was your heart." She said, "Your heart." I detect you have such a pure heart, and you're just so authentic and so open about who just you are, who you are. You don't wear a mask. And so I had to call my son back, say, son, cancel the term stuff. Just make sure your heart's clean and pure, and you let people get a glimpse of it. But I think in a nutshell, the way I connect with people is simply this, and that is all of us have a light. But a lot of times a person's light gets burned out. But regardless, hard time, trials, whatever it is. And I'm that guy that just, and again, sometimes again, and they see me now, like they like, dude, you're so always on fire like that. And next thing they know, when they get around me. And so then when we connect and we collaborate, now we can burn brighter together. And so that's all I do is I committed my life to igniting and reigniting a passion of people for life, for love, for the Lord, and for business. So some of them may not know the Lord. And by the way, I am not a religious person. I got a relationship with the living God. See, a religious is like me saying, well, I got to take my wife out to eat. Got to. No, I get to. Like, but you got to kiss your wife. I got to. Dude, are you kidding? I'm about to throw a lip locker. So anyway, so I'm just authentic. I just think, again, to be authentically me. Now, again, for some people, I'm like over the top, right? And that's okay, but this is who I am, and I have to be me. Now, I've learned in some cases to tune it down just a little bit for some people, and I don't want to feel too. But again, I think personally, we're all human beings, and each of us, we all have struggles, hard times, trials. We've gone through hard times, either going through hard time, about to go through some more. And so I think when people hear our story, and by the way the doctor breakthrough thing, I always tell people I got to give a disclaimer. I can't provide a breakthrough. I just prescribe the breakthrough. But when people follow the prescription, God provides it. And I needed more breakthroughs than anybody else I needed. And so I think that's one of the things I can identify with a lot of people. And so I think that's what helps with the connection, because all of us deep inside, we hurt, we have pains, we have regrets. We have remorse, but we also have joys. We also have dreams. We also have things and if we can find somebody, see, one of our greatest desires is to connect with someone or a group of someone who can empower us to be, do, and have what we secretly know we can become and achieve. And so what I've heard from a lot of people is like, man, there's just being around you, man, just lights my fire, just gets me fired up. And matter of fact, a lot of people, they'll say, I don't quite have that faith like you have, but man, I'll tell you what, I wish everybody that claims to be a man or woman of faith will be like you. I'd go to a church. If you have a church, I'll go to your church.
All right. All right. I am going to tell you, this is the first. He's the first guest I've ever had that has ever brought props onto the show. So those of you that are looking at this interview on our YouTube page or whatever, it's funny. Our stories are so much alike. I talk about one person carrying a match, and the other person carrying gasoline, and sometimes someone strikes a match and everything goes boom, blows up. But I will tell you, and this is my advice. I'm a little older than you, all right? So I'm going to give little brother a little advice. Just because someone's not ready for the message that you're about to receive, don't adjust the conversation like that you do on your channel. Have them tune in and just get the world ready for them. Sooner or later, they will get the message. You have a gift that God has given you, and how you deliver your gift is only going to be received by those people that are open to receiving your message. So, with that said, I want to dive into your book. I want to talk about this book. I mean, I want to share this book, and I'm advising everyone when I ask Stan, Dr. Stan, Dr. Breakthrough, AKA, when he gives you the information on how to get his book, I'm going to ask you, do not waste any time. Get this book because it is life-changing. There is a message. You've got a chance to know who the man is right now. Now I'm going to show you how to get in touch with him. Stan, how do we get in touch with you?
Well, here you go, man. Now you're going into the way you get in touch with me is easy. You could just send an email to Dr. Stan, Stan at drbreakthrough.com. And Dr. Breakthrough is just BREAK through THROUGH. Of course, you can also go to my website, drbreakthrough.com, just BREAK through THROUGH. And doctor's just DR. And then I have a 24/7 breakthrough hotline that if people want to listen to, you can call 24/7. And of course, you can leave a message. I can get that. But that number is 717-275-3500. Again, 717-275-3508. And Kevin, I have people 24/7 that call that. And, the people leave a message saying, man, sometimes I just three-way people say, you just got to hear this message. It'll make your day. And so, again, I know there's been so many people that have encouraged me and uplifted me. And so, again, I feel like I'm a debtor and I just want to pass that out. And so, again, thank you for this platform ability to help share some of the things that have helped me. But I want to say this real quick, and that is my main message in life is simple. I was a mess. And so my message is every master was once a mess. Therefore, every mess or mediocre person can one day be a master. And when a mess or mediocre person becomes a master, you now have a message that if you market properly to the masses, you'll make millions. And so that's my story. I just tell everybody, man, it's like we say here in Texas, whenever you see a turtle on top of a post, one thing you know for sure, he didn't get there by himself. So I'm so glad that the Lord put me where he
I
put me. And
I
I
I
want to
like it. I like it. I'm gonna have to get a T-shirt with some of the stuff on it. And matter of fact, I'm gonna start throwing away my notes next time I interview you because you start to hit on points. I love you, man.
I
But I
love you.
want to talk. I want to talk about your book, and I will tell you from reading this book, from listening on the audio version of the book, you can get it on both hard copy, paperback, and audio. I will tell you the world's not ready for you, my man. The world is
Mm,
not ready for you because we live in a very capitalist society. Today, we are celebrating Martin Luther King Day. And I will tell you, going forward, you'll hear me say on this podcast every single day of my life, I celebrate the life that Dr. Martin Luther King and many others had provided for me. Without their sacrifice, there would be no Kevin McLemore. There would be no show. There would be
come
no
on.
public relationship with Dr. Stan, Mr. Breakthrough. And there would be no sound that will come out of this audio or video because someone gave much bigger gift than you're receiving right now, including our Lord Jesus Christ, than what we're giving right now. And what we're giving is our time. And this is an investment, this conversation that we're sharing.
Yes, sir.
So when I look at, we live in a very capitalistic society, and your book is talking about how to do business in God's way, be a kingdompreneur. Tell us why it was important for you to write this book and what was your message? What is the message?
Well, thank you again. And again, one of the reasons is simple this, and that is, when I became a Christian, and I think it's harder for some Christian people, especially if they were mistaught like I was. And that is, you kind of hear that, money's like the root of all evil. And then you see a lot of people with a lot of money that seem to be really evil. And you're like, well, maybe that's the case. But no, man, if we're born, listen, we have and I was sharing this with my son, I was like, man, you have my DNA in you. So here's the thing. And I said, when I got born again, my father, Heavenly Father, his DNA now resides in me. And so he took me. I was a mess. I mean, I was like, I'm the guy never thought I'd even make it out of high school, much less become a college professor and all that, and travel the world. But when I was awakened to the fact of who I really am, who I was created to be, because each and every one of us, we're masterpieces. In my book, I want you to understand you're a masterpiece because you're a piece of the master. You're a priority of the master. And you're a product of the master. And so, but people try to dummy us down and tell us who we are, what we're not, and so forth. And I love what one guy said to me, and this is part again the book, and that is the book is helping people to understand you can do business in a godly way, almost like what Dr. King taught, the Strength of Love, one of the best books he ever wrote. I mean, man, life changing. But Dr. King talked about an embodied true love, a commitment for people that didn't even like you, that literally hated you, right? Well, the same thing, allowing God's power, God's love to flow through a person. Well, as a kingdompreneur, we allow God's power to flow through us. We evoke God's power to come through us to do business in a way that people say, you don't do business like everybody. There's something different about you. Where instead of going after transactions, we go after transformation. And when people's lives are transformed, there will be a transaction because they'll say, hey, I want to get your book. Do you have more on this? You got courses on this? You teach about this? And so the book is all about helping people because a lot of people, like I was like this for a while, where I was broke, busted, and disgusted, and I thought that was being close to God. I didn't realize I had a covenant right Deuteronomy 8:18, but thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for this he that giveth thee the power to get wealth. I ask people this, why would he give me the power to get something that was bad for me? No, he said, I give you the power to get wealth and I'm going to establish the covenant. And I talk about in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, it talks about this man. It said he was a poor wise man. So in other words, he had wisdom, but he didn't have wealth. And listen, and the city was besieged and they needed help. And so he said, look, I got the answer. And they were like, well, they don't want to hear you. Just broke. You broke. We don't want to hear you. So what I found out is when you have wisdom, your words will be despised if you don't have wealth. So you need wisdom, but you gotta have good work, but you need the wealth. And so the man finally, they listened to him and he delivered the city. But then the scripture says, but no man remembered that poor wise man, that poor man. His wisdom is despised and his words are not heard. So, Brother Kevin, you probably heard people say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, that's true. Here's what Dr. Breakthrough says, and I talk about in the book, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you make. In other words, have you taken some principles and put it into practice that created something that now you can take me by the hand and walk me down to help me to be able to feed, take care of my family and help me to be blessed enough, like I talk about, that your cup runs over, because when the cup runs over, then the saucer gets some. And if the cup keeps running over, the tablecloth gets some. And I believe God wants to bless us so we can be a blessing. The greatest book I've written says it's more blessed to give than it is receive, but I can't give from an empty wagon. I can't give from an empty refrigerator, right? So I got to be able to fill that up. So I believe people that have the right motive, the right heart. And again, a lot of scriptures mistaught, money is the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And Dr. Breakthrough says the lack of money is the manifestation of evil. So what we have to do is we have to learn, as the scripture teaches, when we do our business. He says, learning how to work with your own hands, doing your own business, that ye may have lack of nothing. Whenever there's lack, that means there's slack. There's some principle that I've slacked off or some principle I'm not aware of. And so one of my main burdens is to help people that were like myself. I mean, I had a hunger to help so many people, but I kept saying, but I don't have them. I don't have the wherewithal. I mean, I could physically help people, but I can't be everywhere all the time. And a lot of things will come up. I'm like, man, I'd love to give, but I can't. Man, I'd love to support that, but I can't. I just don't have. And so then when God started showing me these principles, I was like, wow. And I started putting them into practice and being blessed enough that I could, you never know how good it feels. I mean, go from being broke, busting, disgusted, and you drive down the highway, your wife's all embarrassed because you got this white puff of smoke, and every time I stopped that car, I had to pour another quart of oil in that thing, right? But you know what though? But I was happy. I was like, hey, this is my car, and one day when I get a better car, I'll be excited with that, right? And but to get to the place where I've been able to buy vehicles for other people, take them to a car dealership, say, pick something out. Hey, here's the key. Blessings on you, And see, I feel so much better to be able to actually bless people, right? To take them the groceries that they need, to support them. But then not only that, to give them the training though, because if you just give them the things, let's give them the fish without teaching them how to fish and teach them how they can have their own pond. So that's what the book is doing, is helping people to open up their eyes, to understand there's a way of doing business that pleases God in such a way. Let me give you the story and I'm gonna stop. Jesus, when he was baptized, the heavens opened, all of a sudden they heard a voice, "This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." Well, how would you like to do business in such a way that by faith you can hear the heavens open and literally the Father say by faith, "This is my beloved son, my beloved daughter, my beloved servant," doing business in such a way that I'm well pleased. That's my desire for you. So the book is written in simple. By the way, it's large print. So for people like me with the gray hair, right? You don't have to struggle to read. And it's less than 100 pages, 98 pages. And you can get through it, my friend. But so many people have been blessed by it. And my objective, again, my friend, I don't sell books. I give people opportunity to buy something that's going to empower them and change their life. And let me give you a scripture, Proverbs 11:26, that changed my life also. It says, "He that withholdeth the corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it." Oh, I used to think that was a bad four-letter word. Now it's a four-letter word, sell, but it's not a bad word, right? But actually what I learned to do is serve, right? I learned to serve because I thought selling was some loud mouth, No, true selling is serving people to such a capacity, to such a point that they're like, man, I love doing business with you. I feel better doing business with you. I feel elevated doing business with you, the way you do business. And what a blessing it would be to do business in such a way that God's power comes through and flows through us, and that we do things in such a way that people say, man, you must have, and here's the word, you must have God ordained success. That's what I want for your listeners and for those who are listening and watching. So get the book.
No, I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want you to give me the title of the book
Sure.
real quick so people can get it. But I want you to listen to the question because I need you to help someone close to me today. What's the title of the book?
The title of the book is Kingdompreneur, The Art of Doing Business God's Way.
All right. In business, how would you address um, this conversation? Very successful female executive will show up to work and she will work 14 hours a day for her employer, do whatever she needs to do, come home and spend 4 or 5 hours a day doing additional work that she's not on the clock for. But she has a partner that works 62 hours a day and he is on a salary. She gets a big bonus at the end of the day. She tells her better half that she's not happy. When she's asked why she's not happy, she goes, "You don't make me happy." He goes, "Well, how is it that I don't make you happy?" Well, he works a schedule similar to hers. She gets home 4 hours before. She says, "Well, you don't help pick up the load around the house. You don't clean. You don't do this." And his return was, he says, "I schedule days when I'm not working in order to clean." So for the fact is, you get home and you have free time and you clean. And so all of a sudden, she tells this better person that, she doesn't know if the relationship is going to work. Well, he is devastated. I've heard this story in my circle countless of times with females that are in very successful jobs and married to men that just have jobs that are supportive, that will basically bend over backwards. But there's always an ongoing list. In the kingdom of preneurs, as business people, how do you maintain your commitment to corporate America and your lack of commitment to your heart in America, if I can phrase it that way? What advice would you give me as a kingdompreneur?
Well, again, is it entrepreneurs doing business the way the world teaches us, kingdompreneurs doing things in light of the kingdom. And the kingdom teaches us this. When asked about the model prayer, he said, say, our Father, which art in heaven, he said, again, our Father, not my Father, our Father. But then he said this, as in heaven, so on earth. And then we find that his example was when he was in the garden, not my will, but thine be done. And so one of the things as a kingdompreneur, we find out we have to die. Literally, Paul said, I die daily. We have to die to our own desires. We have to die. And the scripture also says, whatever we do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord. And so work as if we're working for God and his glory. And so one of the things I show with couples and so forth is even in my business, no matter what I'm doing, it's all to go toward the kingdom. The same thing with my wife. And so as we're doing things to promote and further the kingdom, and we're going further toward getting closer to God, as we get closer to God, we get closer to each other. And again, my friend, he teaches me whatsoever thy hand findeth to do it with thy might. So I can't be a slack on the job and be talking about the Bible all day and not doing my work. No, I should be outworking everybody else there. But I get to be present in everything that I'm doing so that when I'm at a job and I'm working, I'm giving everything I have. But at the same token, my friend, I'm doing it with the right purpose in mind. And as I'm getting closer to the Lord and as I'm learning to allow others and to let the Father speak to me, then he's going to help show me, like the Lord tried to speak to me, even through my wife, about, hey, you're getting off balance. You're getting too far out there. You got to slow down a little bit. And you got to pace yourself a little better. But I didn't listen. I didn't listen. And finally, he gave me a second chance. So when I got back up the second time, well, you better believe we take vacations quite a bit. But in this case also, I think understanding the what's called, it's called 5 languages of love. Understanding a person's love language, even my son, I said, son, have your love languages, have they changed? Is there one that's more, because there's 5 different ones that we've been taught. That was, and I don't remember the name of the guy who wrote the book. I wasn't planning on saying any of this, just came up. But anyway, but one's physical touch and closeness. Another's quality time. Another one's acts of service. Another one's gift giving and receiving. Um, and the other one I think is words of affirmation. So what happens sometimes if you get a person that theirs is words of affirmation, but they're married or they're with a person who's acts of service, and so they're doing all this stuff to try to prove they're showing their love. The other person, yeah, but you're too busy even to spend time with me, or you're not doing this or doing that. So what we have to do sometimes, we have to slow down. And here's my five point breakthrough prayer. I think I mentioned in the book, but it changed my life. And I pray, first of all, God, love yourself through me the way you want to be loved. Because see, our tendency is to love people, do things the way we want it done and the way we like people. But if we do it the way what the other person thinks. So God, love yourself through me the way you want to be loved. And then I say, now, Lord, love me through myself the way I need to be loved. Because see, if he can fill me up, because the scripture says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Well, guess what? A lot of folks don't like themselves. I remember not liking myself. I remember working extra hard because I was trying. I was like that driven A personality trying to get the approval of my dad, who was never in my life. And it was never enough, right? And so finally, when I had to slow down and realize I'm accepted, and this is a kingdompreneur teaching, I'm accepted in the beloved. I don't have to work to try to prove and to try to be. No, I am. So when I say, first of all, Lord, love yourself through me, love me through myself. And then, Lord, love my wife through me the way she needs to be loved. Love her physically, love her emotionally, love her sexually, love her financially, the way she needs to be loved. And I believe because I pray that way, my eyes become open to some things and I become sensitive to some things that I wasn't sensitive to before. And then, of course, I pray, Lord, love my children through me, all eight of them, the way, and I name them by name. And then, Lord, I pray that you love my, get this now, lost souls and clients and customers through me so that people, when they do business with me, they feel loved, they feel appreciated, they feel like, man, this guy, he's not like everybody else. And so in this case, I think, again, a simple prayer of love my partner through me the way they want to be loved, I think that would help because, again, sometimes we're moving so fast and we're doing things and expecting things the way we want. But the thing, what it said about Jesus, and that's my main mentor, that's my main role model. Instead of being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation. So the scripture before that says, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Now, and here's the difference. This is not preachy stuff. See, this is principles from the Bible that when I practice them, it opens up power and prosperity like I've never experienced before. So all the stuff I was working hard to try to get, now he says, out of your essence will go your belly, rivers of living water. And so now out of my essence, but again, we can't get that if we're just rushing, and only looking for what somebody's going to give to us. When in essence, if we give, then the reception will come. And again, you got to make sure you're with the right person because givers, we have to set boundaries because takers don't have any.
Uh, it's funny. I'm just reading that book, Givers and Takers, and thank you because I want to make sure that when I share this, that they get the message because sometimes when you have someone that you're mentoring, they hear you but they're not listening, and when they're listening, they're not hearing. And sometimes, like with our own kids, we can coach them one way, and the coach can say the same thing, and they follow the coach. So sometimes we got to be ready. I have a couple other questions talking about the book. Kingdompreneurs. All right. Everything that I've grown up, played football, ran track. I was awarded for my efforts. I found coming out of COVID, even at my company, I was number one. And it got to the point that when I came back and we were rebuilding, and I realized that during COVID, we learned a lot about ourselves. We learned a lot about our relationships. We learned a lot about our kids. We need to raise our own kids. We learned a lot about the people that we work for. Some of us thought we had good jobs and worked for great people until we found out there were other good people out there that were working for great people that cared about their people. Most corporations are bottom line. It's a finite business. We got to be the best. We got to be number one. We've got to topple. We got to crush everyone else. Most of us that are successful emotionally, financially, and spiritually have an infinite mindset. Does the kingdompreneur practice either of those? Is one foot on finite and the other foot on infinite, or is The conversation we're having, one person's carrying a match, the other has a gas can, and your little brother's trying to light the match.
Well, so here's what I talk about in the book. So at the bottom rung, it's called competition. That's the way of the jungle, dog eat dog. And unfortunately, a lot of people still do business that way. Some people still do relationships that way, right? So again, it's competition, and they keep score. They got to try to outdo and then try to reframe some stuff so you can't get an upper edge. And so that's competition. That's the way of the jungle. That fosters cruelty. Well, higher level is cooperation. That's the way of civilization. So that's better than down here, the dog eat dog. But even that civilization, cooperation, the way of civilization, that fosters again. That fosters compromise. In other words, I got to hold back from being me because being me all the way me might intimidate or make you feel insufficient or whatever else, and so we kind of. But the highest level that I talk about in the book is collaboration. That's the way of the kingdom. And that fosters completeness. Now, that way I get to be all of me, you get to be all of you, just like my fingers, all of them are different, but when one in purpose and a hand. And so it's kind of like people playing instruments in an orchestra. And so we all have these different instruments, have different sounds, but as long as we're following the orchestra leader, which is the Lord, then we make this beautiful harmonious sound. And so I like to put it this way: when I understood the day, I may not have it all together, but together we have it all. So even my wife, we're totally polar opposites, right? I'm super extrovert and she's more of an introvert, right? I'm a public person. She's a private person. Right? But anyway, so here's what I say: opposites, if you're not careful, opposites attract. But then what happens is opposites attack. And so the successful opposites learn to adapt. And that is, we learn to say, hey, so well, now we never physically fought, but sometimes with words, right? So we used to fight face to face. Then we learned to fight side by side. Again, physical. I mean, not physical, but words, verbiage. And now the best way we do now is we fight back to back, right? So so you better not look like. Matter of fact, I told my wife the other day, baby, if you ever try to leave me, I'm leaving with you. She said, well, big boy, if you ever leave, I'm leaving with you. I said, can we make a deal? She said, what's that? I said, if we leave, let's leave together. But again,
That's
collaboration. She has strengths where I have weaknesses. In my earlier days, I wanted to try to make, you got to be like me. But if we're both the same, one of us is not necessary, right? And so in the kingdom, it's all about, again, all these different, we're all different gifts, different talents, different abilities. But if we all come together and collaborate, I mean, FedEx and Kinko's works good together. Why can't we, right? And if we do that, I think we'll see something change. And the scripture doesn't teach like competition comes from there's a piece of the pie and I got to keep, I let you have a piece. There's less. No, I got to, no. A kingdom is all about the garden, and in the garden, consumption of an apple produces more because that apple has several seeds. And when every seed now represents a whole nother tree that has a whole bunch of apples. And so it's just the opposite. And so now, instead of being afraid, no, we can collaborate and each of us have even more, and there's more to go around.
all right. Um, you I this will be a 3 hour show if I allowed it to be a 3 hour show, if I went through every aspect of the book. But there's some key questions I want to ask going forward. Today's the 20th of January, 2025. A lot's going to change. It's going to affect a lot of people. Technology is moving faster than we can breathe fresh air during the course of a day. We have young people that are out there spending thousands of dollars on an education that they're not going to get a return on their investment by, because technology is going to make that education, it's going to devalue that. Millennials in corporate America, there's an ongoing struggle between how we did business in the old ways and how we need to adjust. There's a fear in the air, and the stench is horrible with technology threatening the livelihoods of people. So people are going to make decisions that were unpopular yesterday, today, in order to survive. In the back of my mind, I look at anarchy coming up, and the oligarchy is going to basically stand back and watch us destroy each other. How does kingdompreneur and the art of doing business God's way, how do you speak to a millennial, and how does a millennial, or how do all of us prepare for the technology and the science to come?
Wow. Well, a couple of things. One is Alvin Toffler said something very powerful. He said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but rather those who will not learn, unlearn, and relearn. Scott Hoffer put it this way. He said, learners shall inherit the earth while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to live in the world that no longer exists. And so, again, I teach in the book, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you refuse to turn. So one of my mentors taught me something very powerful. He said, young Dr. Breakthrough, he said, he was in his 80s. He said, listen, he said, why do you think people aren't successful? And I said, well, you're the mentor, you tell me. And he said, well, because they don't have a plan. I said, well, that's basically what I would have said. But, he said, but you know why people that have a plan, why they're not successful? And I'm like, wait a minute, you just said most people aren't successful because they don't have a plan. And now you're saying most people have a plan, aren't successful. He said, right. You want to know why? I was like, sure, I'd love to know why. He said, because they stick to their plans. I was like, well, excuse me? He said, yeah, so life is always evolving and moving. He said, so what happens to be successful in the beginning, you have to have a plan. But he said the key is you have to be flexible with your planning because he said you're going to plan. He said, and he told me the story about the railroad industry, how they could have owned all of transportation, but they said, nope, we're just doing railroad. Imagine they could have owned all of transport. They said, no, we're sticking with, and he said, and so many companies go out of business because they said, this is the way we do it. We've always done it this way. This is the way we're going to keep doing it. And what happens is, as you mentioned, things are shifting and changing. And so when the winds of change blow, some people build walls to try to protect themselves. And like you said, anarchy is going to come in and people are going to try to break down the walls. Others of us, we build windmills to profit ourselves. So we have to be in this mode of learning. And so even as when I used to be a college professor and somebody said to me, and again, this is one of the Kingdompreneur principles, it said, hey, how'd you like to start making more money in a month than you make an entire year? And I'm like, I'm a college professor. Like, I've been 12 years of regular school, 12 years of college. I got all these degrees. Like, I'm not going back to college because I kept it quick. They said, no, 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 no. We're going to mentor you. And make a long story short, they mentored me and I started making more money in a month than I used to make an entire year. And it shocked me. Matter of fact, I jokingly tell people, I walked into my boss and said, boss, I'm sorry. I can't teach. I can't be here, a professor anymore. He said, why? I said, I got eye trouble. He said, doc, what's wrong with your eyes? I said, I can't see myself working for you anymore. In other words, it dawned on me, profits are better than wages. And I was a little upset my education for. I was like, why'd they teach me I had to have all these degrees? And then it dawned on me, I'm gonna help people to get their MBA massive bank account without having to go to college, get an MBA, Master's of Business Administration, because a lot of people with their MBAs are suffering from another MBA. It's called mini bank account because they're finding themselves overqualified. But again, the whole key is we gotta be in a planning mode, but guess what? Flexible planning. And so again, as things change, all we got to learn to do is just a little bit of shift, a little bit. Bruce Lee became so famous in the martial arts arena because the Japanese, my style is Japanese and with Korean style and so forth. But he's like, no, no, no. Let's just take the best and eclectic. Let's do an eclectic thing and take what's best and what works, and let's do that. And he was hated by the people that were started this way. And then he became one of the most famous, if not the most famous martial artist because of that point. And so the ones that will, as a kingdompreneur, we have to say, okay, I'm going to be flexible. Yes, I would like it to stay the way it is. I got this thing mastered, but guess what? The same way I mastered this thing is the same way I can remaster something else. And that's one of the things I say. There's only 4 categories of people in the whole entire, out of 8.4 or 6 billion people, whatever, based on who you take. There's only those who are a mess or mediocre, but they don't know or believe they can be masters. Then there's a group that are a mess or mediocre and they believe and they're working on being a master. And then you have those who are masters, and then you have masters who messed up or masters in the remaking, right? Didn't make the turn quick enough or whatever else. So, but you just have to have that flexible planning. It's all about the attitude. And so I have a thing every day I give people, it's called the daily attitude adjuster. Let me just give you half a minute of a piece of that, but something that I say to myself every day that helps to keep me on the right frame of mind. And I was like, wow, what a great day to be alive. I feel dynamite. I like me. I accept me. I love me. I'm going to have a super fantastic day today because I'm too blessed to be depressed, too blessed to be stressed, too glad to be sad, too anointed to be disappointed, and too elated to be agitated. Circumstances are aligning themselves in my favor. I'm healthy, physically fit, and intellectually equipped. I have wisdom far beyond my years. I'm an extraordinary person with incredible abilities that I will use to add value to others' lives. Because I know that as I help others reach their dreams, I'll automatically reach my own. I anticipate meeting the person, a group of people today who are willing to help me. And so anyway, let me stop here. But anyway, I'm saying, so I have things like that just help me to be in the right frame of mind. And so again, hard times are coming. But guess what, my friend? We've had hard times before. You watching me now, you've been in a place where you said, I can never make it out, and you made it, my friend. We're going to make it through this. Yes, it's hard. It's going to get hard, but guess what, my friend? We're going to make it. And I close with this. I know I got to stop, but pain and adversity always says this, and I talk about this in the book. It causes some to break, others to break bad. They just get a bad attitude, but then others to break records. And so, Kev, I thought about this earlier this morning. They bullied me and they beat me when I was a child, but guess what? I learned to beat them. I had forgiveness, and then I became a record breaker. And so, my friend, I'm enjoying life. And I want the same for you, my friend. So take the hard times that come and allow it. I didn't become a martial arts champion by taking it easy. No, it was hard. But we learned in the martial arts, if while you practice, you don't want to quit, you haven't really practiced. You got to work out till your body says, I had enough. The will says, no, you keep going. And so in life, champions, we do it when we feel like it. We do it when we don't feel like it. We just keep doing it until we do feel like it. My friend, you can make the change, and I believe in you. God bless you.
Look at you closing my show. Look at that. You did a good job. And believe it or not, I broke a record today. I actually asked more than three questions. Stan Harris, aka Dr. Breakthrough, my listeners, this was a breakthrough moment. And I will tell you, when you talk about competition, the one thing you need to understand when training for your daily event, remember this: your conditioning before you perform is only going to rise to the expectations of the event that you're participating in.
Come on.
All right. If you fall short of that, turn the page back and look at where you started, look where you sacrificed, look what you gained, look at what you've learned. All right. And then allow yourself to be vulnerable. Sometimes we need a day off. All right. But when showtime comes in, lights, cameras, and action, you go do your thing and have breakthrough moments. So, Dr. Stan, I'm going to ask you this. I've had several people on this show. I'm going into my fourth year of doing motivational, not motivationals, talking about my other show, talking with Kevin and Son. And I've asked this question about 99.9% of the guests on this show. And people have answered this question. And six people, total strangers, have answered these persons one wish. And I say ask, not one wish. If you have one ask or one dream or someone can help you to make it come true, and one of my listeners, and like I said, this is a global platform. If you had one ask, what would that ask be?
If my message touched your heart and you think it could bless others, let them know about it. I'd love to. I just love empowering people. As a matter of fact, when COVID, my wife said, "Baby, you seem a little down." I said, "Baby, to me, it's like therapy when I get to empower people." And so every time I preach now, every time I speak, so every time I go somewhere to speak at a business function, whatever, my wife, or do a Zoom, like when I'm done, she'll come and she'll say, "Baby, did you have a good therapy session?" And so I love my therapy session. So if you have the wherewithal to open up a door where I could speak for a group or whatever else, please do so. I just believe that there's some people that could use the message that I have. Right now, they're like I was, they're broken, and they think that's all there is to life. And I want to show them how to get the breakthrough. And the book, again, Brother Kev, I forgot to mention this. Everybody that orders the book on drbreakthrough.com, for a limited time, you'll get a very special. You're going to get an 8-day, 7-night vacation. I spoke for a company, and they gave me a great way to be able to do this to bless people. So you'll get again, complimentary. All you got to do is pay a one-time $20 activation fee and just pay the taxes. I mean, if Oprah gives you a car, you got to pay the taxes. I've never played the lottery, but if you win the lottery, you got to pay the taxes. And you'll get this over 3,000 locations. There's no timeshare. And when you order the book, it's only $20, $5 shipping. You'll also, for a limited time, get that as well. And so that's my way of saying extra blessing to you. I love, some people say they underpromise. Most people overpromise and underdeliver. So other people try to underpromise so they can overdeliver. Dr. Breakthrough, I promise big, but then deliver bigger. So allow me to bless you. And again, thank you, Kevin, for all that you do. And again, my friend, it's a privilege and a pleasure, a treat and a treasure, a joy and a measure to be with you on your show where you're making a difference in so many people's lives. And I thank you for allowing me to have a therapy session today.
All right. I appreciate it. And one more time, how do people get your book?
Just go to www.drbreakthrough.com, DR, and then break, BREAK, through, THROUGH. Just go there. You'll see a copy of the book. Just click on it, forwarded by my good friend Myron Golden, and just order the book. And like I said, for a limited time, we'll send you a complimentary vacation, 8 days, 7 nights. And some people say, well, if I can only stay 3 or 4 days, okay, fine. Then it'll be reserved for you that time. So go to drbreakthrough.com, order the book, and call that number, the 24/7 Breakthrough Hotline, 717-275-3508. And just know this book is 48 years of, of me going through trying to figure out and being exposed to some powerful principles that literally changed my life forever. And I would like to encourage your life as well. So if it could just do a little something for you, I'd be so blessed.
And
And Brother Kevin,
if someone wanted to hire you to speak, how would they contact you?
same way, just Dr. Stan, Dr. Stan at drbreakthrough.com, Dr. Stan at drbreakthrough.com, and on my website, we have a way. And if somebody's watching this and they really like to have a copy of the book, and man, I've been there, you just broke, busted, and disgusted. If you email me, my friend, email us and the office to look at that, and we'll see if we can just send you a copy anyway. How's that? So just
I
Dr.
appreciate
Stan
that.
at drbreakthrough.com. Man, it's
I
because of you,
appreciate that.
bro. Man, you got such a loving heart, man. You got this glow about you too, man.
I'm losing my hair.
And look, I tried to dress like you today, bro.
You know something? I'm going to tell you, and because we ran so far out, because I wanted to ask you a question, but I know if I ask you this question, we're going to be here for another 20 minutes. I will ask you another time, but that's my optimism of believing that everything's going to be all right. We're going to go through some rough times. So, with that said, I want you to
Can I
remember
just
this.
tell him what I say then? I won't give you, I'll just tell you what I say to myself. Everything good that can happen will happen, and it will happen at the best possible time, even though I may not recognize it at that time, and usually I don't.
All right. So I'm going to say this. We're going to wrap up. All right. To my listeners, I want to thank you for riding with us today. I want to thank Dr. Stan Harris, aka Dr. Breakthrough. I'm going to tell you the book is worth a read. The book is worth listening to. So both the audio, this is one of those books that I would say get the hard copy so the book is protected. I would say get it on the audio, listen to it driving to work while you're exercising. This man gives 10,000 steps is just a warm up for this man. I know him personally. The guy is always stepping in once. And I don't even want to bring up the fact because he'll tell you how many steps he took this morning. And most of you guys would just be returning from a flight from where he just walked to this morning. He's got a beautiful picture on the cover. He's got a powerful message. If you have not connected to your faith or you're afraid of your faith, I would say listen to the book first before you decide on which way you want to go. So I want to leave a message with you is that to grow, you must make some mistakes. He said it before, it's in his book. To have confidence, you must address your own anxieties. To forgive yourself, you must hold you accountable. To learn, you've got to unlearn some stuff. And to exist, you have to show up more today than you did yesterday. Understanding the power of your words. Understanding this conversation we had was a breakthrough moment. Some of you are ready for it, and some of us, we got to get it ready for you because the world's just not ready for you. And this is from me, your mindset messenger. If you like what you've heard today, I would say go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page and subscribe and follow. Share this video. All right. If you want to be a guest on the show or you have someone that wants to be a guest on the show, go to RMK Productions at org.com. Almost forgot my own email address. Again, Stan, my brother from another mother, I want to thank you for your wisdom. I want to thank you for your heart. I want to thank you for your acts of kindness. And I want to thank you for sharing a breakthrough moment on Talking with Kevin and Son. Thank you, Stan.
I'm fired up, baby. Come on now. Let's break through that stuff.
All right.
Hey, and thank
My
you.
grandfather
Thank
always
you, my
said
brother.
my grandfather always said when you get to a point in life, you can help someone else out. He said it's your duty to do so. He said reach one, teach one. And with that said, we fade to black and we're out. Thank
Make
you,
sure you
Sam.
come back.
All right. Make sure you come back.